Ambassador Spock, my senior staff. It's not every day that a captain gets to welcome a Starfleet legend aboard.
You flatter me, Captain Solano. But legend implies the past tense, whereas I am very much focused on our present circumstances.
I didn't mean to suggest you were stuck in the past. You're right, Ambassador. Not the most diplomatic choice of words.
Your experience comes from the past. But our present situation calls for it.
True enough.
We were hoping you could fill us in on the details. We got the basics from Starfleet. Two formerly peaceful neighbors are now on the brink of war.
Indeed, and the tension between them grows fiercer by the hour. Ilidia and Hotari. Ilidians are the more advanced species. They made first contact with the Hotari over a century ago. This is Tau, the Hotari moon. It is rich in dilithium, and for decades, the Hotari and the Ilidians have shared a mining operation there. The Ilidians provide the technological resources, while the Hotari have served as the labor force. The stability of that arrangement was the source of their peace, until recently. The Hotari have suddenly and forcefully seized control of the mining operations and expelled the Ilidians from their system. That is the official story, as told by the Hotari when they requested Federation mediation. But the details remain scant. Communications between all parties have been limited by the ionic interference.
How is it the Hotari were able to turn the tables and take the mines against superior forces, especially after decades in this arrangement?
Unclear. The answer to that question may be the key to a new, lasting peace, and one that I hope we can uncover during these negotiations. But it is unlikely the relatively primitive Hotari forces would stand a chance against the Ilidian fleet if this escalates to open war. Left unchecked, this conflict will result in more bloodshed, which is what we are here to prevent.
And the dilithium trade hangs in the balance.
Clearly the Hotari have been exploited in this relationship.
Maybe we can persuade them peace is the more profitable alternative for everyone. They both profited from the mines. And for the Hotari, something is better than nothing. Peace is our objective after all.
That is correct.
We can call it profitable or mutually beneficial, but at the end of the day, the Hotari are still being exploited for their own resources.
True peace is not merely the absence of war. And as such, this conflict will surely come again.
Neither the Ilidians or the Hotari are members of the Federation, so we can't make them do anything.
There is an additional complicating factor I should mention. In the past, the Federation has relied on the Ilidians as a source of dilithium.
That certainly changes things.
The Federation sources its dilithium from a lot of places.
Yeah, and this is one of them.
That means the Hotari have no reason to trust us.
I wouldn't go that far, Commander.
We are completely neutral in this matter, on neither one side nor the other. Any suggestion otherwise would compromise our position. Given the Federation's involvement in the Ilidium dilithium trade, Captain Solano and I must make every effort to appear neutral in these negotiations.
What worries me is if this whole thing unravels, and we're at the mercy of the storm at less than full strength.
We can't let it come to that.
Considering what the ion storm has done to our ship, and the Ambassador's shuttle, we have to assume the Ilidian fleet has had problems with it as well. This recent surge in the energy disturbance temporarily levels the playing field.
Commander Westbrook is correct. The energy anomalies around the Hotari systems have been noted in the past. But they have never been observed on the orders of magnitude we have seen in recent weeks.
That may answer why the Hotari were able to strike back after so long. They finally had an opportunity, and they took it.
That would also explain the Illidians' restraint.
And reason to learn as much about the energy anomaly as we can while we are here. We do not want to be caught at a disadvantage of our own. So I trust we understand our circumstances.
We're operating on a strict timetable here, and we're going to be leaving for the negotiations shortly. Commander Westbrook, I want you to leverage our systems to investigate the anomaly from here while we're gone.
Aye, Captain.
Thank you all.
Dismissed.
I want to speak to both of you privately.
Ambassador Spock, I'd like to make a formal introduction. My first officer, Commander Jara Rydek.
Commander, as you are aware, there are limits to what Captain Solano and I can do in our official capacity as representatives of the Federation. But someone in an unofficial capacity, your first officer, for example, would not be bound by those restrictions. Commander Rydek could ingratiate herself to certain parties behind the scenes, where they may be more candid in revealing information that could lead to a resolution.
She certainly goes her own way. Maybe that helps in this case. It would be unconventional, but I'm not opposed to it.
I'm honored to be included in the negotiation process.
You're not just included, you're instrumental.
Well, I hope Commander Rydek will have more luck finding out what really happened than we will through official diplomatic channels.
The fate of the negotiations, the interests of the Federation, and the prospect for peace will very well depend on it.
Mr. Diaz, I understand you have already discussed the warp drive failure with Ambassador Spock?
I have.
It is imperative that the Ambassador's shuttle be flight ready. I need you both to ascertain the root cause of the system failures he encountered.
I'm surprised, Commander. I thought you would have wanted to work on Ambassador Spock's shuttle yourself.
I respect the Ambassador and his many accomplishments, but I do not derive any satisfaction from interacting with his shuttle as if it were somehow transubstantiated through its association with him. Especially when I have the entirety of this starship to concern myself with. I am not the chief engineer of this shuttlecraft.
Commander Chovak, is there anything you do enjoy?
I take pleasure in the satisfaction of a job well done. I suggest you try it sometime. Make note of any abnormalities in your report. Carry on.
Was that a joke?
No, couldn't have been. It seems like he's warming up to us.
Yeah.
Even Chovak has to look at that face and know you've earned some real respect. And I have to admit that I owe you one. You were right to make me go first. I don't know what I was thinking.
You've pulled me out of trouble how many times? Call it even.
Okay. the very least, maybe I can track down that bottle of Saurian brandy you're still on the hook for. But first, we have work to do.
Ready to go?
All set. Let's run the diagnostic. So, I know about your talk with Miranda.
You do?
She sent me a Priority 1 dispatch right after your conversation. I'm happy for you. Both of you.
Thanks.
But I'm only going to tell you this once. Don't screw this up. Because I would be very unhappy if you tried this out and then, I don't know, 6 weeks or 6 days later, I have to start splitting holidays between the two of you. All because things went south and you're not on speaking terms. That just isn't gonna work for me.
That's not gonna happen, okay? And why are you even going there? We haven't even gone on a date yet.
I just want you to know where I stand. I like our friends and I like our group. I don't want to lose that. Is that done yet?
Yeah, it's wrapping up. Let's see. The relays along the primary EPS are blown. The backup relays are all attacked.
An EPS overload from the warp drive could cause that. But how did the shuttle end up dead in the water?
Huh. Well, maybe the ship's data recorder can tell us something. Here.
They were only about 8 minutes from their plotted warp point. No faults, just those warnings. What are they?
Subspace variance out of tolerance. What does that mean?
It means the main navigation array lost sight of space somehow.
With the array going offline about that?
Yes, but it should have also thrown a fault code.
The warp field became inverted suddenly.
I've seen this happen when the center warp coil cracks.
A cracked warp coil throws a fault code.
Still, we should take a look.
There was a complete warp cascade failure.
Wow, they're lucky the shuttle didn't turn inside out.
Makes me think the computer panicked on the warp field equation.
Any one of these failures should have thrown a fault.
If it was caused by a system failure.
None of this caused the relays to blow. Roll forward to when that happened.
Yes, ma'am.
So here, they take a moment to get their bearings and they attempt to re-engage the warp drive.
There. That's the relays blowing.
And look, there's another warp system alert.
They're all the same. Subspace variance out of tolerance, or warp inversions. Finally, there's a complete warp cascade failure.
Then it's one of two things. Either a warp coil is cracked or the navigation array is offline.
That makes sense.
Divide and conquer. You want to check the warp coils or the navigation array? I'll check the other. Let's not overcomplicate this. One of these systems is likely broken.
I'll check the nacelles for a cracked coil. check the oil and cell balances. Oil in the engine right detected it. So must be an initiation.
Except that's not. Check and
The reading is don't lie.
here comes the security detail waiting.
I do go. Not gonna lie, I'd rather not leave right now. More that's
If you will go down reality, we still together. Alright, where were we?
So warp coils doesn't have an issue with it, fine, but and then after it doesn't make sense.
Not an idea is sure filter the shuttle from back to turn.
You want to take this out of the shuttle and throw it on the bench?
Oh, really? I like it. Should you double check work? The shuttle's not happy if you're running off false data. Let's run shuttle logs again.
Running in now. Same. Warp field reversion and cascade failure. However, the resolution computer doesn't show the same variant.
We're in the same condition the shuttle isn't where it failed. Why wouldn't your computer get a matching result?
What if the subspace variant was momentary occurrence?
It's possible, and it would explain the simulation error current sensing being able to reproduce.
Subspace anomalies cannot cause a warp collapse. Keep gravitons for days.
Let's run the momentary space variant now. Roll forward shuttles and attempt to re-engage warp drive. We need the condition space to run a shuttle moment for warp failure.
Resuming simulation.
The shuttle sensor data of that map potent.
Why did the warp field calculation fail? Wait. What if we lose this additional ship?
The resident into the simulation instead of shuttle.
Yeah. Should work just fine. Run the simulation resolute.
Resolute simulated.
Computer, manual control work. Bingo.
What?
The same moment shuttle failed to abort ship. Whatever happened to the shuttle just happened to us. Welcome to Atari. We are my name is Minister of Mathematics. The honors ours. This is Commander John Rydick, first officer aboard the USS Resolute. You'll find she has a keen mind and an insight into the dynamics between the Atari and the Illusions.
I'm honored to be here as representative of the Federation.
These must be the representatives of my life and face. The galaxy, or so reality, whether that's true or not, either way, we're braving the time to control what we call the universe. And here you are.
This is Gal. This is Citron. The heroes of the revolt of minds.
Let's hope this is the last time I ever come in. If you'll excuse me.
I think we're hard. Did you hear the heroes?
That value may be true. But let's us keep an open mind when we go to negotiations. Hopefully it's just one of those things.
Atari advised us as their guests. We must show them the proper respect.
Welcome to Atari. The honor is mine, Your Majesty. That the Federation standing within this not to people that we recognition of our stature and importance.
Let's get on with it, shall we? With all due respect to the Federation and their ambassador, they have no authority here. We are not members of their alliance. We are not subject to their rule. No. We demand the immediate return of all mining operations to Lydian control, as it has been for centuries and will be for centuries more. That has always been our understanding. That understanding has changed. If you cannot remain silent, you will be silenced. Points well taken. What is the Federation's interest in this matter? Perhaps you would have to say one oppressor for another. The Federation remains neutral. Our only interest is the peaceful resolution of this conflict. We are here to your request. For now. Trying to keep nobody here. It's not easy. I thought they wanted us here. Was there something you wanted to say, Captain? No. My apologies. And about the she's not part of speak for herself, can she? Let her. No. What is your name?
Commander Jar Rydak, Your Majesty.
Being who we are, you would know better than anyone. Your people suffered brutal treatment at the hands of the Cardassians. Their injustice for who we are is as unimaginable as unforgivable. Not like how we have been treated by Lydian. As much as they have you believe the other victims here, remember it was Atari who attacked us. Instantly, it was slaughtered without our mercy in those minds. Not her! After all the others suffered, you finally had the chance to right that wrong, to get out from under their control. Could you take universe, please?
Can't speculate on something that never happened, Your Majesty. Sadly, that opportunity never came for the Goliath.
No. Indeed not. But we wise to learn from their example before we too find ourselves facing extinction. The Federation is the most powerful, most advanced alliance in the galaxy. It's why we know we have abundance of ideas in our minds. and it's in your interest to secure a steady supply.
I satisfy my man.
Ambassador Spock would have us feel your here as a new party in the interest of peace. So why are you really here? I want the truth, not your Federation rhetoric.
As Ambassador Spock has said, we've come to seek a peaceful resolution to this conflict, and have no interest in your dilithium.
I'm not misusing you mistake. The Federation has done business with the Lydians for a decade, which makes me question your motives.
They have said, but cannot deny, that it's a simple truth. The dilithium trade will not and will no longer exist without a Lydian involvement. We created it for the benefit of everyone, especially the Tatar. We've given them more technology. We've let them share in profits. We made their lives infinitely better than before dilithium was discovered. All that goes away if the Federation turns a blind eye to their rejection.
That is enough of your lie. Why they came over running our minds? We've done so essentially. Who deserves control like dilithium trade and minds on our? Who should the Federation recognize? Or the Lydians? Only one or the other. Not both.
If I have to choose only one, then it would have to be the Tatar.
Well said. How could you just and wise Federation make any other choice?
The Federation has all the
Minds on top of Lydium will not be better. Take back our minds by any means necessary.
I am more than willing to express concerns of yours as well, Representative. I suggest we have had more productive conversation with the smaller group, perhaps only the most essential representative.
I suppose there is some sense to that. I hope you didn't get Jara.
Spock and I cover everything diplomatically. You make nice proposals, see if you can get an answer. We need to find out why the Tatar is so willing to risk war. What happened in my mind?
Such rough terrain. No wonder the Hatari are so tough. Soothing. The captain and ambassador have it handled. I've got my own mission.
Commander, I'm glad you've chosen to side with the Hotari. I knew the Federation would see through the Illidians' baseless claims and protect the interests of my people.
To be clear, I am not on either side of this conflict. Our only interest is peace.
I will keep that in mind.
I assume you were there the day the mines were seized from the Illidians.
Not seized. Reclaim. And restored to their rightful owners. Yes, I was there. Had to be decisive. Before the Illidians could even realize their worst nightmares upon them.
I'm curious why the Illidians haven't fought back. They have the ability to retake the mines anytime they want.
Ability is one thing. Courage is another. The Illidians know any hostile action on their part will not end well. They respect one thing above all else, and that is force. The greater the force, the more certain the outcome. Any talk of making peace is just that, and worth little without the strength to secure it. Which makes me wonder about your ship, the Resolute. Undoubtedly the Federation's finest port. Ready to contend with anything the Illidians might have in store. Or is that not true? Maybe I've misjudged it.
It wasn't designed as a warship. More for scientific research and exploration.
But the Federation must have ships designed for war.
Technically, there are Starfleet ships representing the Federation. But yeah.
I see. Sidron. A pleasure meeting you, Commander. I'm sure we'll cross paths again.
Commander Rydek, I'm encouraged to see the Federation supporting my people. I'm afraid of what might happen without your help.
I'm glad to hear it. I just hope you're not the only one who feels that way.
I apologize for that. These are unusual times, to say the least. Much has changed. I saw you speaking to Sidron, our national hero. I'm curious, what did he say?
He seems to be of the opinion that negotiating for peace is a waste of time.
Because force is the only blunt instrument he understands. He's a miner, not a diplomat. For the first time in our history, the Hotari have the upper hand. We see ourselves as strong instead of downtrodden. New voices have risen up. Old voices shouted down. Galvin and Sidron have become national heroes. Now they have the Queen's ear. Better or worse, depending on your perspective.
I assume they've taken your place.
I was one of the Queen's most trusted advisors, and I hope to prove myself worthy of being so again, which is why you are here. My fear has been that the Illidians will launch an attack and crush us. You've seen their starship, no doubt. They could have retaken the mines whenever they wanted to, but it never happened. And as strange as this may sound, I'd almost say they're afraid. I just don't know what they're afraid of. It's still the same bluster and bravado you would expect from them. But it has no teeth. Like they're afraid of what might happen.
You think it has something to do with the ion storm? Right now, it's stronger than ever, isn't it?
It's entirely possible. I'm not a scientist, but I do know the storm has knocked out all kinds of... So maybe the Illidians weren't willing to risk their ships given all the interference. Since the day of the revolt, Galvin has seized control of the mines and restricted all access. No one's allowed without his personal authorization. And they've taken over a section of the palace with just as much secrecy and security. I'm told it could be something they brought back from the mines. I made inquiries, but everyone pretends it doesn't exist. I strongly suspect they're hiding something.
Why would they do that?
I don't know. But that's what concerns me. Whatever they're hiding, it can't be good.
How can we know?
I'd better see what's happening.
Do you think you can find out where they're hiding? I need to see proof of something before I can make my case to the Federation.
I can try, but even if I found it, I might not know what to make of it.
Take this. You can use it to capture whatever you find, and then send it to me.
Thank you. I will let you know what I find. And I look forward to our meeting again.
Sorry, I couldn't help but notice you were speaking with the Hotari this whole time. I figured in the interest of fairness, I should offer another perspective.
Of course.
I'm probably not telling you anything you don't already know, but these negotiations rely on the Federation's neutrality, as does any hope you might have for a supply of dilithium. So why you would choose to side with the Hotari escapes. Without Lydian involvement, there is no dilithium trade. But clearly, you weren't aware.
We are and will remain completely neutral. Our only interest is the peaceful resolution to this conflict.
As is ours. Of course, the question is, at what price? Major Solid Armenta, Special Attaché, Lydian Armed Forces. Pleasure to meet you, Commander. I have my issues with the Hotari, but I have to give them some credit. They know how to seize an opportunity. Inciting an uprising the same day as a massive once-in-a-lifetime ion storm.
Our assumption was that this storm was just an anomaly.
Yes, a very convenient anomaly. At least that was what we were told. Of course, I wasn't there. But who am I to say otherwise?
You sound skeptical.
Well, the official story is that it was the storm that enabled how else do a bunch of unarmed, unorganized miners seize control of an entire moon, much less thousands of miles? But I've talked to people who were there. They tell a different story. They say they're lucky to have escaped with their lives, that it was more than just the storm. That somehow, the miners were able to harness the energy from the storm. I know it sounds crazy. I'm not even sure I believe it myself. But that's what they said.
You just answered your own question. How do a group of miners do something that in theory can't be done? That's how. Harnessing the storm.
But even if it's true, how does that even happen?
You tell me.
If you'll excuse me, Commander Ryder.
Well, that was a disaster.
What happened?
The Hotari refused to concede anything, so the Illydians stormed out.
The Hotari did not invite us here as peacekeepers. I hope your efforts were more fruitful than ours.
Gravitational harmonics failing to resolve. Warp bubble stability degrading. Increase output to maximum.
Increasing warp output to maximum.
It's happening again.
It is evident that presently, the Resolute cannot achieve warp propulsion.
Since our diagnostics rule out any problems with our warp systems or anything about the ship, the problem appears to be the fabric of space itself.
Space itself? You're saying something about this region of space prevents warp travel?
Prevents it, or can't sustain it.
However improbable, that appears to be the case.
We need to know more.
The storm didn't stop us from leaving space dock and traveling here. But could it still be causing this interference with warp travel?
We must follow sound investigatory principles. Do not let an assumed conclusion drive your analysis.
Sometimes we need a little inspired thinking, Mr. Chovak. Captain Solano is on his way back from the negotiations, and I want to have some answers for him when he gets here.
Indeed. Given the facts at hand, we may be able to deploy subspace probes around the ship to construct a clear picture of the phenomenon.
Around the ship. I'll prep a shuttle.
Setting up a waypoint at a distance roughly corresponding to the edge of our warp field. When we get there, I'll deploy the first probe.
Commander Westbrook, the resident systems are calibrated to receive the probe's readings. We are standing by to reproduce the warp field collapse after the first probe is deployed.
Thank you, Mr. Chovak. We'll be in position shortly.
And as soon as he is, you two take care in piloting the shuttlecraft. Now is not the time to indulge in the human penchant for joyriding.
Chovak probably isn't such a fun guy to work for.
Seemed to find a way to push his buttons. Yeah, I think he'd blast me out of the airlock if he thought it would help increase engine efficiency by 0.1%.
Well, don't worry about it. Chovak's opinion isn't the only one that matters. Last time I checked, I was still Chief Science Officer, and you made a hell of an impression on Ambassador Spock. I'm the one who should be worried with this new first officer on board. This is far enough. Transporting the first probe into position. Westbrook here. The first probe is deployed.
Understood. We are reading it. We are about to replay the simulation.
Problem?
I just can't get a handle on her. Commander Rydek. She rejected my plan to use a deflector pulse against the storm surge. But on the other, she did listen to my advice and use the whole polarity trick to get you through that excursion alive. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the new XO. I'm sure she's a fine officer, even if we don't see eye to eye. But she didn't go through what the rest of us did. You know that. And it's hard to figure out why she'd be the one Solano chose instead of, well, one of us.
I've heard some good things. You should at least give her a chance.
I'll take that under advisement.
Test is running. Warp field collapse in 3, 2, 1, mark.
All right, that is definitely a problem with the fabric of space. We need to get another probe out there. With 2 points of data, the Resolute and the probe, we've managed to get an interference pattern. I'm setting a waypoint to a particularly strong area of interference. We'll deploy the second probe there. Listen, I'm gonna give you a piece of advice I wish someone had given me. Make sure you're never just one thing. Don't get so focused on what's in front of your face that you lose sight of the big picture. Before Rydek showed up, the captain pulled me into his ready room and told me he didn't think I had the people skills to be first officer. What a load of crap. I mean, he'd said that about Sholok. Sure.
Well, if you're asking, I think you're a people's person. After all, here we are. Me, an enlisted officer. You, one of the senior staff. Talking like old buddies.
I should send Solano to talk to you.
Bring him on.
I'm sure you can handle him. You've got potential. You're a capable engineer. You're good in the field. Keep up the good work. And who knows? A solid jack of all departments like you could be Commander-in-Chief of Starfleet one day. Hell, Admiral Jellicoe started as a shuttle pilot. And there are places to go in the enlisted ranks, too.
I don't know. I'm pretty happy where I am.
You must be a glutton for punishment. Lieutenant Commander Chobak has been known to take decades to warm up. Here. This is close enough. Stop the... Deploying the probe. Westbrook to Commander Chobak. We're ready for another sampling of...
Very good. Running the simulation again. Warp field collapse in 3, 2, 1, mark.
There it is again.
I saw it. Seems to be direction.
Well, what about the scans? Anything?
Here's the readings in relation to our local space. We've got the Resolute, Atari Prime, and the probes.
All this interference is overloading the sensor buffers. We're gonna have to triangulate the sensors manually. We got something.
These markers indicate peaks in the gravimetric interference patterns.
Let's see if I can find some more. Hold up. This is coming from the moon.
A beam that blocks warp travel.
Aimed right at us.
Someone is doing this intentionally. I don't know how they're doing it. This is like nothing I've ever seen.
Why would they be doing this? We came here to help these people. And now we're getting hit by some warp-killing weapon?
Now, look here. It's the current readings of the ion storm.
These concentrations, they line up with the interference pattern. The storm and this beam, they're coming from the same place.
Carter, whatever petty local conflict brought us here, just a small part of something much bigger. Presently, we don't have an explanation